Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my IVF infertility Q&A, which includes the reason why I was hospitalized after egg retrieval. So all lumped into one video. If you're new to my channel, then my name's Anna, and I have a slew of IVF videos because my husband and I are in the middle of an IVF journey right now. So today I'm going to be answering all the questions sent to me on Instagram. I posted on my Insta stories that I wanted to do a Q&A. Almost all of you said yes, do it, and then you sent me your questions. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the video. Let's just go ahead and start with the main question. I've been asked a ton about what actually happened and why I was hospitalized after the egg retrieval. And I'm just going to try to explain it very quickly. Basically, a lot of you guessed it was OHSS, and that was part of it, but that wasn't the actual reason that got me hospitalized. I ended up having internal bleeding. So I was bleeding internally after my egg retrieval, and the only reason why I knew, and even when I felt the pain, I didn't know it was because of that. I just thought it was OHSS and that I had just gotten it terribly. After egg retrieval, when I came home and I was able to fall asleep, after my husband came home picking up our daughter from daycare, I all of a sudden, no warning, nothing, got excruciating pain that radiated through my right side where the right ovary is up into my chest and my shoulders. It was honestly the worst pain of my entire life. Worse than a contraction at 8 centimeters dilated with no epidural, and it just would not stop, and I was writhing and trying to move, and my husband almost had to call 911 because he didn't know what to do. He had never seen me like that. And I wish it had happened before my daughter got home because it scared her, and she was like, mommy, mommy, and I just feel bad that it scared her and that it happened in front of her at all. But when I got to the hospital, they, via ultrasound, saw that I was bleeding, and my hemoglobin, they had to watch it because it was dropping. And it was just kind of a mess and not what I expected at all. And the nurses reached out to me from the fertility clinic saying that this does not hardly ever happen. OHSS is obviously common when you have the more follicles, just the worse it is and the worse it can be. So since I now know that internal bleeding is possible, just make sure when you do your egg retrieval, you really listen to your body. That was a very obvious pain that I knew I had to go to the emergency room. So just really take care of your body and watch for signs and symptoms, because I was lucky that it was blatantly obvious that something was wrong. So that's pretty much what happened. If you have any more questions about it, I'll answer it. They wanted to go in and do a laparoscopy and get all of it out. I declined for that day just because I'd already been under anesthesia for the egg retrieval, and that just kind of freaked me out. So they were going to do it the next day, but luckily overnight my hemoglobin had stabilized, so we were good to go. Okay, the first question that I have says, what are your plans for your extra embryos, and how do you decide that? What things are good for the support person in your life to do during IVF treatment? So if you haven't watched my embryo update, obviously this question was sent before then. We have 3 very good embryos. We are going to end up transferring all of them regardless. Even if we transfer 2 the first time and get twins, we later on will transfer the last one. So luckily we're not having to deal with that, what we're going to do with the extra ones. But honestly, if we had the amount that I thought we were going to have, our choice ended up being that when we were done with IVF, we were going to freeze them for 3 years, and then at that point we would have donated them to whoever. You just donate them, not to science, but to where someone else could actually adopt the embryos. And as far as what can the person do in your life, for me, I didn't really have any expectations from my husband because I didn't really know what to expect. But he ended up coming down and sitting with me through every injection as long as he was home. So just having him sitting there with me just made me feel better. He helped with a lot of the mixing of the medications and stuff. So, and then he obviously came to monitoring appointments as he could. With my husband, it's very hard because he's not here a lot. Like, we have a very weird type of schedule. So just when he was here, it was just the best thing was just the quality time that he spent with me and did as much as he could without actually injecting him his own self, because obviously we get the pleasure of doing that. The next question is, do you ever find it hard to be happy for other friends and family when they get pregnant? I had to give up Facebook because of the constant baby announcements. I'll just be honest and say that even now, it's still really hard. I work in an OBGYN clinics, and I do patient consults with patients who are newly pregnant. And that's kind of hard on me. But honestly, what's the most hard, like honestly, with friends and family, I'm always very happy for them because I know what blessings babies are. And I just am happy for them. I just tend to get upset when I see maybe someone that I knew from high school who's pregnant and I know that they've been on drugs or in jail and things like that. That's what makes me the most upset, is when I see people who I think, and I hate to say this, but I feel like they're undeserving because they don't have their lives together. I honestly feel like the B word for saying that, but I'm always going to be honest with you guys. So it's easy for me when it's someone that I love and care about and things like that. And even with my patients, like a lot of them, I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy for you. And it does get easier. But there is some times where I just kind of, honestly, I get pissed. Like, and I feel bad, but yeah. The next question is, do I have endometriosis? I don't. My fertility specialist was almost convinced that I did have it. We ended up doing a laparoscopy before we ever got started in any kind of treatment. And it was clear. I feel very blessed because I know endometriosis can be extremely painful, and that's one thing that I'm thankful I don't have. The next question is, did my husband have a bad SA, which is the sperm analysis, and what was the count, morphology, and motility percentage? I don't remember each one specifically, but every time we've had to give a sample, whether it be for the IUIs or just in general, his first sample I know was only 10 million sperm and I think 4% morphology and like 38% motility. His count has went up a lot. The one that he left for our backup for our IVF cycle, we ended up freezing a backup just in case his one the day of was not good enough. And I recommend that if you do IVF, to have your husband leave a backup sample because you just never know. That sample had 95 million sperm, and after all the numbers, I think 35 million of it was actually good and moving and doing what it was supposed to do. And the vitamins that he took to help with that, he took Fertilate for Men, which you can get on Amazon. And he also took zinc and vitamin D or C. I think vitamin C and zinc. The next question is, what tips do I have for people going through STEMs, which are the injections? What tips do I have for keeping yourself distracted and distracted from stress and worrying through STEMs? And then what are my thoughts on genetic testing for embryos? As far as going through stimulation, I found it like helpful. I bought little Cadbury eggs. Those are my favorite candy for Easter. And every day when I finished both injections, that was my reward, my treat for the day. I found it helpful to journal in the IVF journal a lot. And I just kind of found it helpful to look forward to what we're trying to achieve here, which is a baby. I love looking at baby names online and nurseries on Pinterest. I just look at the good things, and just like I have a secret board on Pinterest for my IVF baby. Things like that really helped me. And as far as staying like stress-free and worrying, there's not really a way to be completely stress-free and not worrying, because you're constantly always wondering about your follicles and hoping that they're growing. And for me, I was worried about my estrogen level being cray, which obviously it was. So there's not really a way to like completely avoid that, and it's normal to worry about your body and what you're going through. I just say try not to let it affect you and your husband or partner, because that's really detrimental to the whole situation. Do not let the stress from that affect your relationship. Just do things that you find stress-free, whether it's like adult coloring or going out, you know, for a movie. Just do what you can to help like lighten it, but you're never going to get rid of it. The next question I have is, how is my husband handling this emotionally versus how I'm handling it emotionally? My husband is not one to like truly show a lot of emotion, but I think he's doing that right now. He's pretty much just the optimist, which sometimes can like really irritate me, because I'm like, I'm having all these feelings, and he's like, oh, it's gonna work, it's gonna work. But I mean, I think it's a good thing that he's that way. He's definitely more of an optimist than I am. I'm just very cautious about things. So I guess the difference between us is that I am a realist, and I know the chances of us getting a baby out of our embryos, and he just seems to think like it's gonna work itself out. So he's definitely more carefree than I am. The next question she also asked was, have I found that our intimate life with my husband has changed since all this started? It hasn't really changed. I think it's more like increased our intimate life, because obviously you're kind of scheduling it and you're doing it more. And yeah, I think if anything, it's really helped, if that makes sense. I do understand though that like infertility can make you seem like you're scheduling intimate time with your husband, which isn't always the best thing. So just try to find ways to like keep it spicy. The next question is there any advice you'd give to someone who's just starting out? And honestly, I would just say be prepared for the hurdles. Be prepared for things to not go the way that you think they are going, and be prepared for changes at any moment, because I felt like things were going pretty good until the egg retrieval, then the embryo news. So just be open to anything and really try to take it as it comes. That's just the one thing that is really important to live by when you're going through infertility treatments. The next question is, what is the worst part of secondary infertility? So secondary infertility means you already have conceived on your own and have children, and then you have infertility when it comes to having the next child. And the worst part about it for me is that I am hard on myself, because I already had, obviously I've been able to get pregnant naturally already, and then I can't do it again. And it just kind of is, I'm just kind of like frustrated, like why? I've done this before. Why can't it just happen again after all these months of trying? Like, why is it not working this time? And then of course when my daughter, you know, they want more siblings, I just feel like, why can't I give them siblings? So that's kind of just the worst part. I feel like not only if I let myself down, but I'm also letting my children down. The next question is, how many friends and family have I opened up to about our journey? And my Instagram page has people that are just regular friends of mine on it, but I had never like made like a formal announcement that we were doing it. Like on Facebook, I have not mentioned this at all, and I don't just like voluntarily show everyone. Why don't you show them what you look like right now? Hey, sit down. I don't just voluntarily just call up people and tell them. If it happens to come up, I'm not shy anymore like I used to be about it. I just almost felt uncomfortable. But the more I open up to like my YouTube channel, the easier it's gotten for me in real life. The next question is, what was the most difficult part of the STEMS process? What symptoms did I experience? And did I have any limitations as far as exercise and physical activity or intercourse? And the most difficult part was just doing it every day, feeling my body bloat and like feel like the kind of just the symptoms of like not being able to fit in my pants, like things like that. My hormones were a little bit crazy and I was just a little bit wild and easily like cried and things like that. As far as limitations, we did not have intercourse after I think day 4 or 5 of the stems, just because I had really started feeling just the side effects of it, and I just kind of freaked me out to do anything. And really, I still exercised, but after a while I didn't feel like exercising anymore. And the last question is, would I ever do this again if this journey is unsuccessful? And at first I said heck no. If you would have asked me like 3 or 4 days ago, I would have been like, no, I'm never going to do this again. But the embryo numbers pretty much changed things for me. I had to start kind of pondering the idea that I may have to do this again eventually. And we do kind of have a game plan set in stone that we've already talked about. So, I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we are kind of like mentally, it's in the back of our mind. And we're just gonna focus on the right now. We're gonna focus on these 3 amazing embryos that we have and just thank the Lord that we have those. And we're just gonna focus on each step at a time. So right now we're just focusing on the transfer that's coming up. And then if that is unsuccessful, we'll move on to the next thing. And I just find that taking things as they come, even though it's hard when there's curveballs, it just seems to like work the best for us. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope this cleared up any questions that you guys had. Anytime you guys message me on Instagram, I try to answer those questions as you send them to me, and I really appreciate, of course, all the support. I say this all the time, but I honestly appreciate the support like more than anything. It just feels so good to have this community of like 2,400 or whatever, however many there are of you. And I'm just grateful for like the positivity on this channel. And it helps me, and I think it helps others who are going through this. And I really just want to be a resource for someone who's going through what I'm going through, what we're all going through. I know that like 90% of you are going through some kind of trying to conceive or infertility journey. A lot of you are pregnant too, which is amazing. So thank you guys so much for just your continued support, and I will see you guys in my next video, which I will be talking a lot about our frozen transfer cycle, which has started already, which is crazy. So that's all for now. I'll see you guys later. Bye.